If you've watched sci-fi movies, then you've probably seen the highly sophisticated glasses secret agents use. What about Spider-Man's AI glasses from Spider-Man Far From Home? Remember her name? These things are all exciting and have a way of making you wonder when you could get your very own. Well, wonder no more. Apple glasses are coming. But are they coming with these futuristic features? Watch this video to find out. Before we get into the exciting world of smart glasses and glasses you could potentially use in activating the Earth's defense systems like Spider-Man and Iron Man, there's the need to address a lingering question. How did this all start? At what point did we decide that we needed to enhance our vision using technology? Well, like seen in the Spider-Man movie, the military had something to do with it. Back during the World Wars, pilots realized that it was not going to be easy to fly a plane and keep an eye on the enemy at the same time. The case was much worse in enemy territory, where pilots had to rely on verbal instructions which were not always clear or accurate. This worsened during nighttime, where the pilots realized that taking their eyes off their dashboards to find the enemy plane in the sky only left them facing a pitch-black sky. Not only was this a problem since it was hard to track enemies, but it also presented the challenge of blinding the pilot. There was the need to somehow fix this challenge, which became the genesis of the smart eyewear we see today. A display was invented to help pilots see more without necessarily looking up or looking out of the plane. The invention made to address this problem was the heads-up display, or HUD for short. The invention has since gone beyond that to be applied in other non-military projects, such as commercial aircraft or even cars. The heads-up display was transparent in nature and allowed users to see data without looking away from their usual viewpoints. This might not seem like a big deal, however for pilots it was. If you had to look out of the aircraft or look down to find or confirm specific information, the eye will need to refocus, which was not very convenient, especially in the heat of battle. An enemy pilot could easily take advantage of the temporary disorientation, and the result will be death. The invention of the heads-up display was therefore a much-needed and welcomed one. What components make up the heads-up display? The heads-up display is usually made of three components, namely the projector unit, the combiner, and the video generation computer. The projection unit is responsible for the production of the image the user sees, and is usually set up having a concave or convex lens with a cathode ray tube, LED or LCD at its focus. The combiner redirects the image projected in a way that fits in the field of view of the user, and is typically an angled piece of glass located directly in front of the viewer. The video generation computer, as the name implies, generates the imagery to be displayed. The initial version of the heads-up display was a stationary unit in the aircraft, but knowing us humans, you know it wouldn't stay so for long. If it did, we might not be having this discussion. Eventually, another type of heads-up display known as helmet-mounted display, or HMD, was invented. This was a portable version of the HUD, which the user wears on his head, which accounts for its name. Literally speaking, it is a helmet that is equipped to display the necessary information the pilot requires on his visor. In modern times, many military jets combine both heads-up displays and head-mounted displays, except for the F-35 Lightning II, which utilizes only the head-mounted display for its operations. The smart glass. Surely, if the HUD technology was adopted for sophisticated machinery like a fighter, then it should be fairly easy to adapt it for everyday use, right? Well, Google thought so too. Before jumping into the subject of Google, it is important to understand that smart glasses are based on similar technology and concept for head-mounted displays, or HMDs. They are specifically referred to as optical head-mounted displays, or OHMDs. Traditionally, we've worn glasses to protect the eyes or helped correct and manage a particular eye defect. Smart glasses, however, take this up a notch, or maybe several notches. They don't necessarily have to address an eye defect, but they do bring the connectivity of the modern world as well as the imaging we enjoy on our computers to us in the form of glasses. Google's smart glasses. Google was the first company to officially launch smart eyewear in the year 2013 and it cost a whopping $1,500 at the time. The device came fitted with a camera and a TFT screen where all the magic happened. The device also came with its custom-built OS called the Google Glass operating system based on Android. It also had built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to live up to the connectivity that smart eyewear is expected to have. A touchpad was also available at the rim of the glass for input. Google Glass came with a field sequential color or FFC liquid crystal on silicon or LCOS system, which allowed it to display information and images for the user to view in their true colors, a similar technology used in televisions. The display was fitted into the prism of the Google Glass with a resolution of 640 by 360 pixels, quite smaller than most modern phones, but then again, the prism was much closer to the eye, and perhaps technological advancements back then would have made a higher resolution difficult. The glass did make it possible to have a hands-free experience, since users could do most of the things on their phones using just voice commands, such as sending emails, text, and taking pictures. Apps such as Maps and others were also integrated, which meant individuals who owned the glasses could navigate their way through town with little to no distraction. Although Google did warn users they could experience eye strain from using it for too long, what they did not anticipate was the backlash and privacy issues that will come with the glass. Many experts started to worry about security, given the fact that individuals could potentially be taking pictures or videos in security zones without anyone realizing it. Theaters even banned it for this reason. Aside from these, the safety of the individuals using the glasses was a concern, considering it could affect their peripheral vision. As if these issues were not enough, there were some who simply did not like the idea of the Google Glass, and some who were ticked off by the geeky look of the smart glasses. It had less fashion sense than they would have liked. The factor that broke the camel's back was the cost of the glasses, which quickly killed all and any enthusiasm that came with the glasses. Google temporarily buried the project, perhaps to bring it back later when the technology might be truly appreciated. Google has, however, since then launched iterations of the glasses, such as one for Boeing and a special one to help children with autism learn social skills. The Apple Glass. This brings us to what Apple could potentially be offering us. Over the years, Apple has been filing for patents for an upcoming AR and VR device that they are yet to announce. This device is thought to be Apple's response to the demand for smart glasses, and the device is thought to be officially called the Apple Glass. Although there is yet to be an official word from Apple, the patents filed by the company talk about a dedicated VR and AR device, which could be none other than the Apple Glass. The patents they have filed also give us an idea of what their upcoming device could look like and the features it could be launching with. Most of Apple's recent patents and technological developments have been towards AR, MR, and VR. AR stands for augmented reality, MR stands for mixed reality, and VR stands for virtual reality. The patents filed include gadgets ranging from smart windshields to smartwares such as rings, gloves, and our subject of interest, an HMD. These developments are meant to change how users interact with technology and improve immersion. The most exciting of these patents for us is the patent for the HMD, aka Apple Glass, and all the other patents associated with it. The use of AR. A recent patent for the glass shows that there will be information on the glasses available via AR to individuals using the glass only. It means an individual could walk into a shop and see information on various services or items there which will only be made available via AR on the glasses. This means that the extra information will not be available to the naked eye. Think of how this could change lives. The visit to the museums could become cool and informative. Advertisements will be greatly improved and made very interactive. Lenses. The Apple glasses will also have separate transparent lenses for both eyes, which is already much better than the prism technology used by Google. Computer-generated reality, or CGR, comes into play with Apple's invention, which will see virtual content displayed based on detected surfaces or detected objects including the hands of the user. This virtual content is created and seen in combination with the environment. The AR content looks somewhat like an overlay over the real world, which the user could interact with. The patent filed by Apple extensively emphasizes the use of hand gestures to communicate with smart glasses. Pretty futuristic, ain't it? But how can Apple fit the screen onto the lens? What kind of technology could make this possible, especially considering the fact that Google mainly utilized the prism technology to get by this? Well, the answer is simple: mirrors. Digital light processing projects a beam of light through a color wheel, reflection mirrors, and then finally a lens. The size of the mirror used for the digital light processing chip, or DLP for short, is about the size of a red blood cell, which is pretty small by all standards. This makes the technology the most viable to use for the glasses. Pupil expansion patent. Among the patents filed by Apple, we have the pupil expansion patent, which is meant to increase the field of view of a projected image, which will greatly improve the image quality for AR applications. Past implementations of HMDs, or for the sake of this discussion, smart glasses, have been limited by the technology available. Images had to be downgraded to make it possible to use them without danger to the eyes, or being limited by the hardware itself. This patent, as small as it might seem, is actually great news. Its AR possibilities further affirm the CGR elements discussed earlier. Camera technology and setup. Wondering what the camera technology and setup are like? Did you ever come across Google's Project Tango, which launched as far back as 2015? Well, if you didn't, we don't blame you. The goal was to give smartphones an advanced depth sensor. The company pushed the technology out with no real or true direction for it. It was more of a, let's put it on the smartphone and see what happens. Your guess is as good as mine. Nothing interesting happened. Lenovo implemented the technology on its Fab 2 Pro and failed to turn heads. Google was unimpressed with the results and hasn't promoted it as much as its other products. Although the Lenovo phone received a lot of backlash for its ugly hardware design, and the phone was considered an outdated phone even for 2016, the sensors at the back of the phone were something to behold. It had your normal phone set up at the backup with the Tango fully equipped. There was a 16-megapixel rear camera, an LED flash, microphone, and fingerprint reader. These were pretty standard for the time. The Tango setup, however, had a time-of-flight camera, an IR projector, and a fisheye motion camera. The Google Tango hardware allowed the phone to do motion tracking, depth perception, and area learning. The motion tracking allowed the phone to understand its motion in an area, whilst tracking the usage of the device. The images from the fisheye camera were compared against movement data from gyroscopes and accelerometers, which was termed inertial measurement unit, whilst the phone's camera was used for feature tracking, which allowed for visually identifying features like edges and corners as they move from each frame. The depth perception worked like LiDAR, using tiny points of light sent out of the IR projected and reflected into its time-of-flight camera, which then calculates the distance via travel time, establishing depth. In simpler terms, it allowed the phone to see in 3D. This was going to come in handy for applications that will use augmented reality or AR. The device is able to combine both motion tracking and depth perception for what was described as area learning. This is basically the ability of your phone to create an indoor map of an area you scan. You can virtually move things around in this virtually created world, or put things there and they will remain as well. Tango could have been used for so much more, but perhaps it debuted on the wrong hardware, or maybe at a time when there was not a lot of application for it. The technology might have sounded like a big thing in 2016, but not so much in 2021. You might probably be thinking I'm just describing Apple's Face ID or other IR capabilities in a fancy and complicated language. Well, you wouldn't be wrong. The front camera setup of the iPhone alone has an infrared camera, a flood illuminator, proximity sensor, ambient light sensor, dot projector, the actual front camera, and then the usual phone speaker and microphone. The phone is capable of doing everything described with Tango, but might fail to create a precise 3D model when it comes to positioning in a larger space. The advancement to improve AR capabilities has not only been applauded for the progress in recent years, but has also been criticized and scrutinized, mostly over privacy concerns. Brands like OnePlus have had to disable and recall some of their devices due to the near-infrared cameras being able to see through things, especially clothing when stretched too thin. Although remarkable as it shows what IR could do, it also raises concerns. Are we truly safe when it comes to keeping our private lives private? Due to privacy concerns that come with IR, Apple has explored other technologies, such as ultra-wideband or UWB, which is a recent addition to the iPhone, and LiDAR, which was initially used with cars. These technologies have been used for precision location and radar. Although UWB has been used on devices such as the iPhone 11, Apple Watch Series 6, HomePod Mini, and iPhone 12, LiDAR has only recently been introduced on the iPhone 12 and iPad Pro. The LiDAR technology is a type of time-of-flight camera, like we saw earlier with Google's Tango. This adaptation of the technology sends waves of light pulses in a spray of infrared dots and is able to measure each one with its sensor, creating a field of points that map out the area within which it is used. Light pulses? Yes, light pulses. But these are ones that are invisible to your eye, but you could try to see them using a night vision camera. Sounds familiar to Face ID? Well, pretty much, but also not really. It has a longer range. LiDAR can work up to a range of 5 meters. Apple's Face ID, which uses the True Depth technology, and LiDAR are similar and yet very different. True Depth, as its name implies, is designed for more in-depth and finer measurements, such as scanning a face, whilst the LiDAR is made purposely for scanning large areas. Apple designed their sensor with augmented reality experiences in mind. Have you played any racing games or open-world games? Then you might have seen how you are led through checkpoints in the various racing games with various graphics. Well, Google has implemented that using AR. You can hold your phone up to get directions in the form of arrows. Like all new technologies, this is not perfect. Your device will run pretty hot soon, especially when in the scorching sun while straining your battery. This brings us to Apple Glass. It should be capable of handling this without breaking a sweat. All you need to do is wear it and make adjustments to brightness when necessary. Brightness patent. For anyone who might have come across smart eyewear, this might sound new. Apple has applied for a patent for the Apple Glass that is concerned with how, quote, the dynamic range of a head-mounted display may be perceived as insufficient depending on the adaptation state of the user's eyes, end quote. Apple intends to control circuitry, which includes an ambient client sensor that may gather physiological attributes of a user, such as blink rate, pupil size, and eye openness from a camera, to help the HMD. The brightness control is not the only impressive patent. Apple also acquired a patent that allows for tracking eye movement, which allows the device to know what the user is looking at and create interactions based on his direction. Think of it as similar to using a mouse, but without the usual swiping gestures on the Google Glass frame. If you are familiar with the spatial 3D controller used by game developers, which allows them to get rid of the clunky mouse whilst working, then you can already picture the benefits we are getting with the Apple Glass. Talking about games, this technology could revolutionize how games are played. The success of the Apple Glass could lead to the rise and development of AAA AR games. There are already games taking advantage of AR, such as Ingress and Pokemon Go. Although both are seemingly similar, they are quite different. The AR elements in these games are, however, undeniably good and were considered revolutionary when they launched. Their state now only describes what could be possible in the next few years with AR, especially once an OHMD like the Apple Glass launches successfully and becomes the mainstream. Considering Apple already has Apple Arcade, heaven knows how many AAA AR games will come out. It's simply something to look out for. It is beautiful. Looking at these features we are potentially getting with the Apple Glass, and knowing that there could be more we are yet to discover, There is no doubt that the Apple Glass is going to revolutionize how things are done. The iPhone and iMac may not even compare in terms of influence and revolution once the Apple Glass is launched. You might say Google tried it, failed. How will Apple be any different? Well, Google created a product, but without a lot of applications for it. Apple is creating a product and already has a use for it, and also has the advantage of releasing it in a time when there is an actual demand for the technology, coupled with the technological advancements that will help the invention. We do not see the product being a flop in any way. Instead, what we see is the Apple Glass creating a new way to explore and interact with our world, and we cannot wait for it.